now tuned in to the cold, hard truth. Cayman's #1 hard-hitting live podcast show, where we feature some straightforward conversations on political, social, and celebrity news and all things happening in the Cayman Islands and around the world. This show was created to give the people a voice and a means of being involved and informed without any filters. Sometimes it gets crazy, but we always keep it real. We bring you the tea, piping hot, so grab your favorite beverage and join the conversation via WhatsApp at 324-1612. Email tips@CaymanMarlRoad.com. Now, here's your host, Sandy Hill, broadcasting live from the beautiful Cayman Islands.
Headlights to see and be seen. Brake and steer gently to avoid skidding.
Okay, good morning. Good morning, everyone. We'll wait for Erin to give us the thumbs up that she's going to be live. I think she's playing a few commercials and stuff. Going through her logs, as they say in the radio world. Let's see.
The day from CMR.
Surprise!
Good morning.
Good morning. How's it going?
Good. How are you?
Oh, just hanging out, hanging in here.
Awesome.
Running the show.
Feedback on myself. I don't know if that's on your end.
You better now?
Yes, I think so.
Maybe, shoot, I don't know. Could have been me talking too loud. Anyway, how are you doing today?
Wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. How are you?
Wonderful. Same. Just a nice, lovely Wednesday with, 17 days left to go until...
Oh my gosh, I can't believe it.
17 days left to go. Hanukkah officially ended on Monday, so it is official Christmas season.
Yes.
So,
right around the corner, Christmas falls on a Saturday this year, as most parents, I'm sure, already know. So in the news today, we've got a tourism job fair happening tomorrow from 1 to 4.
Okay.
So any Caymanians and persons with the right to work who are interested in the tourism field, this is your opportunity to go out there, be seen, be heard, take your resume, pre-register.
Yeah.
So this is a wonderful opportunity. Over 200 industry jobs are available as the country starts to reopen. So we're encouraging, all eligible persons to go out and see what's there. Be prepared.
Yeah.
Everything from the Ritz-Carlton's going to be there, the Westin, the Kimpton Seafires, all the big ones. And then, Grand Ole House, the Wharf, Rum Point, Parrot Sanctuary, and others as well. So this is really,
That's cool.
I think, an individual's opportunity to shine when it comes to.
Yeah, and nice to hear that Rum Point's there because they've been down for a while, so it will be nice to see them back in operation. That's a great place. So cool. Well, hey, look, that's a great opportunity. I know there's a lot of job openings, and so hopefully we can get some great people in that are local.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
this is it, because I think a lot of people will have a lot of excuses as to why they don't do it, and I think this is your chance just to get out there and put your best foot forward. And what I like about this is a joint effort. Sorry. Oh my goodness, between Tourism Works and CETA, and basically the powers that be, in tourism, have committed to actually following up with people to make sure that they find out what happens after you go to the job fair. So I think that's pretty awesome.
Totally. Well, first off, I just want to say, Everlyn and Sophia, good morning. They gave me a little shout out, so I like that. Good morning to the rest of the CMR Massive. But I did want to. I was reading this thing just before we got on together from what is it? The vaccine should work against Omicron variant. WHO is saying right now, the World Health Organization. So they're saying that they said we have highly effective vaccines that have proved effective against all variants so far in terms of severe disease and hospitalization. And there's no reason to expect that it wouldn't be so. This is obviously just, one of the emergencies. This is the WHO's emergencies director, actually. He said initial data suggests Omicron did not make people sicker than the Delta and other strains. If anything, the direction is towards less severity. Again, new information comes out all the time, and people criticize all these people because, they changed their mind. It's like, yes, science always changes with new facts.
Yes, I mean, absolutely, Erin. All of the evidence so far, and again, it's still early days. Sorry?
No, I just heard like a funk.
No, that was my keyboard moving.
I was like, is there a clown in there?
So the Omicron variant has now been detected in 19 states across the U.S. But for sure, it's fast moving. It's faster moving than Delta, but so far it appears to be less severe, which is a good thing because there were some concerns. But it's still early days, and I think that they're really, really keen on working on it. And actually, it was a South African lab experiment that found that the variant may dull the power of vaccines, but hinted that the booster shots might actually help. And so, we're hoping that that's good news.
Again, shout out to the SAFAs. We don't want to, they got a lot of flack for it, but the SAFAs really did some good work.
This was just a study that was published on Tuesday. I mean, obviously, it's not a huge study yet because not a lot of people have Omicron, I suppose, but it found that the antibodies actually produced by vaccinated people were much less successful at keeping the Omicron variant from infecting cells than the other forms. But they're still saying that vaccinated people who are still open to these breakthrough infections, of course, should continue the vaccine course because it looks like, especially getting the booster shots, is really, really important.
Totally.
So it's now in dozens of countries around the world.
I mean, that was expected.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, when it spread, I mean, we, it just, everyone travels so much, it's going to go. And that's, that is kind of the thing. It is, by the way, one of the most mispronounced words of 2021 coming in at the slide in late was.
No one has agreed on how to pronounce it. Have we decided
Omicron. There's no N in it. Omicron. How do you say it? Omicron. That's how I say it.
Well, there was a whole, I don't know if you saw this whole video that was trending about how to pronounce it. And they're like, nobody knows.
Omicron.
So some people say Omicron, some people say Omicron. Yeah, it's kind of all over the place. It's
Honest,
become a bit of a parody, actually.
it's really depending on if you're in the US or really the UK. So let's see here. Yeah, I would say Omicron would be American. Omicron would be less. I don't even know. Listen, I've been here for so long now, and like no one in my household is from America. So I don't even know how I speak anymore. I'm like, I have such a different like way of pronouncing things now, just because, you just kind of start. I have one of my really close family, our family friends. She married an Australian and moved to Oz when I was young. And every time that she would come back, her accent would change just a little bit more when she'd come to visit. So I feel like that's me now. But anyway, hi, Larry, really quick. Larry gave me a shout out too. So
Larry is always saying hi. He's joining us in New York. He tunes in every single morning. We've got an international crew.
I love it.
From different parts of the US, the UK, Canada. Sometimes we have people from Paris that will drop in on us. But yeah, Larry is a regular every single morning from New York.
Well, that's because a lot of people listen to your show and tune in. I did hear the unfortunate news that the other there was that the teenager who started the other news.
Oh yes, John Flemings. Yes. Yeah. Good kid. Young. He's only 7. Is he 17 yet? But yeah, he's pretty young. So he started last year. I think because just COVID, he had time on his hands.
Yeah, but cool.
And he
I wasn't doing that at 17.
Yeah, he started real keen on news.
Yeah,
and unfortunately, he's had to put it in sort of a hiatus mode for now. So we do wish him well. I think it was good. And I'm glad that he acknowledged that, it takes a lot of hard work to do news, and it's more time and resources that he has right now to commit to it. And listen, when I tell you that in the world of news, people you've got to be on top of it. Like you miss one news story and people are like, where were you? What's going on? It's like, okay. But yes, definitely. He gave it a little try, and he says that he will be back.
Awesome. Well, that's good. I just, just looking at the age, because it's 17, like that was, no. Would I have put much time into doing something good for other people? No. I was way too selfish and thinking about what did I do myself for me.
I think there are always people that inspire you at that age. I remember when I was in high school, I was like in honor societies, whatever. I thought, I'm doing great. And then there was always those top tier kids. Like there was the one guy who ended up being your valedictorian. He had his own lawn business in high school to save money to try to pay for his college tuition because his mom was a single mom. So yeah, he was super smart. He was going to get some scholarships, but he also had a lawn business where he was going out there hustling and working. I'm like, wow. People can motivate you as a teenager, I think, no matter what your age really is. And some people have a really keen business acumen. Quite early on, you can see that they're going to be trying things. And it's not, for me, it's not even about how many times you fall down. It's how many times you get up.
Oh,
so you try something, it doesn't necessarily work. You keep at it. And one day you could be a CMR.
One day. Yeah. No, I'm adamant.
Accidental number one news media, and everybody goes, well, how did that happen? And then you say, it wasn't all that accidental, actually.
No, you worked hard, and you've done a great job.
There was a plan. There was a secret plan, Erin.
No, you've been working towards this for a while, but yeah, no, I'm adamant. I read those, those Little People, Big Dreams books for kids.
Yes.
I read those to my children all the time. I'm trying to put the seed in.
Yeah.
Look what Amelia Earhart did. Look what, Muhammad Ali did.
Yeah. I mean, you just never know, to be honest, what potential your kids have. So you have to not limit them. Tell them there is no box. You can do anything you want. You can be anything you want. I know sometimes that sounds a bit cliche, but it really is true if they put their minds to it. And it does take hard work. So
that's the part
I never try to fool people into thinking that this isn't hard work. It's not as easy as it looks, actually. There's lots of sleepless nights and, fewer sleeps in the night. And, it takes a lot. And there's so many moving parts to different types of businesses. Yeah. So, of course, news isn't just about publishing stories. There's so much more to it. And speaking of stories, some really, really interesting headlines other than the tourism job fair is we did a very interesting, a little bit of an expose on UCCI yesterday about their hiring practices. It
Okay.
is quite lengthy, but I want to invite everyone to have a look at the story because it really breaks down what has happened like department by department. Now, when CMR has to do headings for within a story, it's because there's a lot of text and we want to kind of really break it out for you. But we looked at all of the major departments and there've been some significant changes since she's left the island on Monday, by the way. But since Dr. Stacey McAfee took over, there've been some significant changes to HR. So much so that the new board that's in, is ordering an HR audit. And we have done probably 90% of their HR audit job for them with this story, breaking down the salaries that were there previously, the increase in salaries, and some of them are significant. Some, departments had double 50% increase in employees. It is quite an interesting read. And we analyzed everything from the Office of the President, Admissions and Registrations Office, Office of the VP and Provost, Director of Accreditation. We went through all the different, all the way down to the IT department, in fact. And so I think your readers will find it very, very interesting.
So basically, if you have a lot of time or, you just want to dive into UCCI HR admin kind of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, these things are important because, UCCI is obviously a government college and there's a lot of money that is put and invested into UCCI. And there are a lot of people who are questioning the results that we're reaping. How much is it actually benefiting the community? And so there are some real concerns there. And of course, when someone is talking about their tenure, they only talk about the successes in their eyes that have happened during that time. And they never really talk about any of the questionable things that have also occurred.
Okay.
And speaking of questionable things, a little bit of court news. The last couple of days, I've been sitting in court watching a number of different cases. A few of them are manslaughter and murder cases that are coming up for conviction, sentencing.
Mm-hmm.
And so Justice Chappelle has two of them, ironically, that both happened at the Strand. One was Christmas Eve of last year, and then one was August of last year. You guys might remember those two. And so now he will decide what happens to those two young men in terms of the fate of their lives, really.
So that's coming up.
And also in court is the former UCCI marketing, I forget his official title, but he was in charge of marketing, in charge of their university TV. And he also was listed as a lecturer on the syllabus for 2020, Freddie Diaz. And he has been charged with possession of child pornography and accessing child pornography. Yeah.
Okay.
So it's very, very interesting. And yesterday he took the stand. And it was very interesting to hear. The day before we watched his police interviews, and then he took the stand yesterday, and he had so much to say taking the stand that he didn't say in his police interviews. So it was very, very interesting. And then this morning, his wife will actually be taking the stand in his defense.
Ugh, that's sick.
So
Anyway,
we won't say too much about it because it is a jury trial. But after the jury trial is over, my audience knows that we analyze these cases, and boy, do I have a lot to say about this one. So they're going to continue to tune in for that. We're hoping that possibly by tomorrow, the jury could have the case, or maybe early Friday. So we'll certainly keep you guys updated. So the police have been extremely busy in the Cayman Islands. Big hats off to the RCIPS folks. They made an arrest of 5 people in a West Bay operation that took place on Friday, December the 3rd. Yesterday morning during our show, Aaron, you were probably busy doing your own show, but you would have missed that there was a drug bus in East End. So the drug boat tried to come in. I think it washed up on the reefs or something, and packages I heard were floating all over the place. So the police were in East End extremely busy. And then unfortunately, there was also a contingent of police officers in Prospect because there was a suicide that they had to deal with. So we've lost a young person to suicide, unfortunately, as well. And we want to encourage anyone who's obviously struggling with depression, any sort of mental health issues. There are professionals out there who can assist you and get you over the hump. And please, think about the next 5 minutes and the next 5 minutes and the next 5 minutes. Like, I think that always keeps people going. and reach out to someone for help is what I would recommend.
That's very sad to hear.
So those are some of your headlines for today.
Well, I know we're going long. I just want to go out on a good note because now I'm like, oh, that's so sad, anyway. But I do want to shout out because we were talking about government funded stuff, and we go to the botanical gardens a lot, and they're really struggling out there. So I just want everyone that's listening on CMR, everyone listening on KS, like the botanical gardens, like just go out there and try to support them. They've got a playground for the kids now with like a splash pad, but just get out there and support them, and just by showing up and visiting the gardens. You can also buy stuff from them, like buy trees and all that. We've got some great ideas. They've helped us a lot with our garden, trying to make it just really beautiful. So just want to give them a shout out because they're really struggling over there.
Wow. And they have such a beautiful landscape, but I knew that they were hit really hard by the tropical storm.
It's going back together. Grace. Yeah. I'm like, I don't even remember now. There's so much other news.
And we did go out there and we got a tour of the facility at that time. And so I think they're trying to make a slow comeback. But it's a beautiful ground, and they put so much effort and work into it, and just keeping it lush and gorgeous, and propagating a lot of plants. So I absolutely support you there, folks. Get out there and go support and it's good exercise to walk the grounds. I mean, trust me, you go out there for half a day.
But the kids love it though. That's the thing. They have that little little house kind of thing they can play in. Now they have the little playground area. They love to run around. They look at all, they see the blue iguanas every time.
I was going to say, it's one of the few places that you can go and probably be almost guaranteed to see a blue iguana, which, as people know, is indigenous to the Cayman Islands, just roaming freely and not really being bothered by anyone. They're absolutely gorgeous creatures.
They are. I have the most beautiful photo. I did my when I was pregnant with my second. I did my photo shoot for that one, my pregnancy shoot there. And so my little one just ran off, and he was and he saw a blue iguana, not terrorizing it, but just Amy Strelko took a photo of him just chasing this kind of by the blue iguana, running with it, and it's a treasure to have now forever.
Absolutely. That's so sweet.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Anyway, so I just want to give them a shout out because they are.
We've got Jonathan giving you a shout out from St. Martin. He's
awesome
as well.
So many people from around the world. All right, I know we went long, but I'll see you tomorrow, and catch the rest of the show.
Have a good one.
Bye, everybody. All right,
folks. 17 days out from Christmas. Are you guys ready? Yes. Good morning to Miss Mariva. Good morning, Miss Emma. She says that we need suicide hotlines and education. The science of suicides. Losing one young person to suicide is one too much, and we have lost quite a few. May their soul rest in peace. I agree. And I'm trying to remember, I have asked about the suicide hotline before. And as you guys know, this is actually a topic that is very near and dear to the heart of the premier, because unfortunately he himself has lost a child to suicide. And we've talked to him about it before. I always feel so uncomfortable talking to people who've lost a loved one, but I feel like it's such a necessary conversation. I should say lose a loved one, particularly in that way. It's such a necessary conversation. And of course, his response to that was to set up what's his son's name again? I'm so sorry. The Panton Foundation. It'll come to me in a second. Alex Panton, my apologies. Foundation. And they have been doing a lot of really good work through that foundation. And so, I think it's wonderful how we can respond differently to different situations, but him and his family have really poured their hearts and souls into the Alex Panton Foundation, which is an NPO, a non-for-profit organization, with the primary objective, folks, of raising awareness of mental illnesses and issues affecting children and young adults in the Cayman Islands. So he passed away in October of 2010. And it's hard to believe that it's been that long because, in such an odd way, that's one of those things that will stay in my mind obviously CMR was not around 11 years ago, but I do remember the day that it happened. In fact, I remember it being a Saturday, if I'm not mistaken. And there was something peculiar about the situation because I was going home. You guys know I lived in Newlands for many, many years. And I was going home on the bypass. And I remember passing the ambulance. Like, there are just certain memories that kind of get ingrained in your brain. And I remember passing the ambulance, and the ambulance was passing. And you know, when the ambulance passes you, they have the lights on, but they're not moving particularly fast. And I've always been told, that normally that means that the person is DOA, like dead on arrival. And I remember thinking to myself, wow, I wonder who that could be, like what happened. And not long after that, then I heard the very, very sad news that it was Alex Panton. I mean, just unbelievable. And at the time, his father was, I think Wayne was still a partner at Walker's. And I feel like I called, I'm sure I called, but what do you say? What do you say to a parent? Oh my God, there could be probably very few things in life that compare to that level of pain, And I don't know if you guys remember, during the campaign, we actually had an opportunity to sit down with Premier Panton, and we got a chance to speak with him. And of course, we had to bring up this conversation because it is something that has changed his life and changed the life of his family. And, they're trying to make it into something positive. So we briefly talked about it. And, of course, it brought him to tears, which was not our objective. We hate to see people crying, for sure, but it's just unbelievable. So yesterday, another young man, I'm told he's 20. Originally, we were hearing 22 years old. I'm told he's 25, and that he had been working. And we do have a name and everything, but, we purposely, by late yesterday morning, we had a name and quite a bit of detailed information. But I did not think that it was appropriate to put that information up there yet, So I think we'll wait a little bit longer. But people know him, and just really sad. I heard that he had lost his job, and I'm not sure if that was a driving force, but I did hear that he was really, really upset about losing his job. And I don't know the details around, what happened with his job, but one person said that they knew he'd been there for a little while and they thought he was always a good worker. So they're not quite sure what happened. But folks, no job in the world is worth you taking your life over. Trust me. And we've all been there. Have we not all been there where we've lost a job? Listen, some people get fired from a job. They get let go after, literally 20, 30 years in a job. We've had people here in banking who have worked for some of these banks for 30 years, almost 40 years. Some last year got let go from FCIB or whatever they call themselves these days. And, those individuals are really, really distraught at what happened to them. And after you've been in a position that long, you don't even know where you go from there. But what I can tell you, folks, is life goes on. And regardless of what stresses you think you can't overcome, I'm here to tell you that you can. You can overcome illness. You can overcome job loss. You can overcome divorce. Listen, you can even overcome abusive relationships. You can get the help that you need and, really get past it. So Angela says, stop the stigma when it comes to mental health. With the stigma, there's no way we can move forward. And sadly, things will just continue. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with getting professional help. I mean, I'm an advocate for therapy. I think everybody should be in therapy probably, because, at some point in our lives, we all struggle with different things. And there is nothing wrong with saying that you need help. There really isn't. So I'm all for therapy, and I think people, should get it if they need it. Sometimes you don't even think you need it. Just do a mental health check-in. And this is where it would be good to have access to 800 numbers. So I think when I was talking to, I can't remember if it was Premier Panton, but there's some concerns about having an 800 number. And I said, why don't we just connect an 800 number overseas? It doesn't even have to be somebody in Cayman, because there are tons of available resources overseas for people to tap into. And the technology that we have, folks, it's not hard to forward a number to an 800 number overseas. And I think that, with that being available, you could also have a greater level of access and expertise available to the people of the Cayman Islands. Like, we've lost too many lives to suicide, to be quite frank and honest. And it's absolutely horrible. So Maria says, is he Caymanian, as he looks Spanish? I believe his mom might be of Spanish or Latin American descent, or she might be, from somewhere in Latin America. And but he is, I don't want to say his name, but I believe his father must be Caymanian based on the name. Yeah. So it's definitely a Caymanian name, let's put it that way. And I mean, he went to school here and everything, like all the kids know him. So I feel like he is definitely a Caymanian young fella. So good morning, Miss Shannon. She says, I lost my job at Butterfield this year after almost 2 decades of my life. And listen, these are the life changes that are difficult to deal with, without a doubt. But, I, again, want to be an advocate for the fact that no matter what life throws at you, I feel that you can, you can just listen. Sometimes it's not even about, I'm going to be great. Sometimes it's just like, I'm in survival mode, right? I'm going to survive. I'm going to, we will get through it. And I think that that's really where you have to be sometimes. You have to say that I'm not okay. I mean, I can't imagine Shannon's situation, but sometimes you have to say, guess what? I've lost my job and I'm not okay with it. And I remember Shannon being a little bit upset about losing her job. She shared at the time some of her thoughts here on this program about it, And I know sometimes we're quick to dismiss people when something like this has happened. But I heard you, Shannon. I heard the pain in your situation. I know that you have health issues and concerns that mean that, you also need to be worried about health coverage and all this sort of stuff, because it's not easy having a lifelong health concern and needing insurance. Insurance is not a luxury, folks. We all need it, but some people need it a bit more than others. And Shannon definitely is in a position where she needed it, or she continues to need it. And it can't be easy for her to then wake up one day and find out that she's no longer employed and no longer has the benefit of insurance coverage. And one of the interesting things I always think about is how it's done. Like, I think these companies can be so much more sensitive. Like, sometimes, yes, you got to let people go, but I do believe that they could be a whole lot more sensitive in how they go about it and how they do it. And a lot of them seem to not really have the necessary skills to do it in a tactful manner, which is unfortunate, I do believe. So, Shannon, we're sorry for your loss as well of employment, because, again, 2 decades is an amazing amount of time to, to be unemployed after that lengthy time. So, thank you for sharing your story. Zambula says, sad, everyone losing everything, especially in Cayman, or especially if Caymanians, I think is what that's supposed to say. And it's a tough battle. That's why the people who are receiving the stipend should increase, because you cannot do nothing with that amount of cash after paying bills and getting food. So sad. Zambula, to your point, it would be great if the stipend can be increased, but I think there is an element of realism that we've always maintained on this program, and I'm going to say it again. It's so funny because the former government is talking about why is government borrowing money? They're really on top of them about, oh, don't borrow money because you're gonna strap future generations with a burden. So if you think things are bad now, future debt is coming. And I think that there's something to be said for that rhetoric, except you can't use that rhetoric when at the same time you are also saying, well, let's just increase giving people more money, and you haven't said where the money's coming from. So there's a bit of a double sword edge with that situation. The progressives government never said how they were going to pay for it. How they were going to pay for it? They were going to borrow money too. But of course, they're only lambasting the current government for having to borrow money, which they would have had to have done as well. So, it's been extended and extended. And Zambula, the truth of the matter is we have got to get these borders open. Even if we have to crack it open just a little bit, those tourism dollars impact some 70% of the people living in the Cayman Islands. We cannot continue to live the way that we are. And when you talk about, strains on people, economic strain is one of the biggest stresses in life. Economic strain pulls families apart. It makes people commit suicide. It makes people get a divorce. And people become alcoholics because they can't take the stress of not being able to support their families. Money matters. And I really, whenever I hear people say, oh, it doesn't matter about money, who cares about money over people? And I was like, what? Money over people, and people don't care about money? If you care about your people, you have to care about money. Let me be very, very clear here. In case y'all missed the memo, money makes the world go round. You can't have a house without money, right? You can't have a car without money. You can't eat. So those might be some luxury items, and not really, because you need shelter, but you can't even eat without money. You can't put food on the table. You can have no quality of life, folks, without money. So I don't know in what parallel universe people live in where money doesn't matter, but it's definitely not this one that I'm living in, especially in the Cayman Islands. Everything costs money. You go to the grocery store, you better have money to buy groceries. Healthcare, you want to go to the doctor, you want to do a health checkup. Everything costs money, folks. And so, you need to be realistic about that. And it's not about putting money over people. It's about understanding that even for the mental sanity of your people, they need to get back to work, and they need to be in a position to be self-sufficient, because the government can't carry all the burden. We expect everything from government. I want everything for free. And folks, it's just not how it works, and it's not realistic. And I can assure you that if you think you're getting something for free from government, then you need to look at the cost of living and other ways in which they're going to have to pull back and tax the people in order to pay for it. So whether they're taxing corporations or others, everything has a trickle down effect on all of us. So Ms. Maria says parents need to be more vigilant and watching their kids at this time. Lots of depression is going on during COVID. And without a doubt, there was a scathing report really that came out of, I think it was the US, that talked about children and their mental state during a time like COVID, and during the COVID-19 pandemic has been nothing like probably the world has seen since World Wars, because World Wars also highlighted a lot of difficulties. The Great Depression, children really suffered psychologically during some of these critical times in the history of the world. And COVID-19 will go down as one of those times when children really, really struggled as well. Depression is up, suicide rates are up, and so on across the world. So I think absolutely parents need to be more engaged. But again, when parents themselves are struggling and they can't pay the bills and they've got issues, I think it's incredibly difficult for them to be there for their children, which is so sad, right? Because we should try to be there for our kids. But it is hard on everyone. Lockdown is hard. It has taken a mental toll on people, not even being able to see family members for years now. And that's another reason why we need to open up the borders, not just employment related, but just the ability to go and see people. There are babies that have been born that families have not seen. There are people that have died that, people are not able to attend funerals and all sorts of things. So I think getting back to some semblance of normalcy will help us all on a mental health level as well. Loretta, good morning to you. Miss Shannon said, God answered my prayer, Sandy, because I would not have left otherwise, and I wasn't happy. And I was abused the past 10 years at work, and so it turned out to be a blessing. Well, what they say about not every disappointment, what's the saying again? Not every misfortune is a disappointment. No, not every disappointment is a misfortune. Not every misfortune is. What's the wording on this? I always get this confused. I feel like it's not every disappointment is a misfortune. Is that the right way around? Basically saying that sometimes when bad things happen to us, it turns out to be a not so bad thing. And Damien points out that the former government wanted to sign a $200 million cruise ship deal. Child, they get up there now and they're like, oh, we don't like what this government's doing and we're so disappointed in this, that. They understand how some people have such a short memory. Yes, that would have laden the country with some serious debt. Please, Damien. They need to take several seats. Good morning, Miss Sue. Loretta says, not sure if you follow Nick Cannon, but it's sad that his son, he lost his son at such a young age from a brain tumor. I did see this story. It was actually trending yesterday, Loretta, and I've assigned it to our regional correspondent, Renee. So hopefully she'll put it up on the website later on today for those of you who don't know anything about it. Very, very sad situation. Nick that was his 7th child. I didn't realize he had so many kids. But yeah, it was very, very sad. Such a cute little baby too. Oh my gosh. But I can't imagine. He said that his wife was like so strong during the whole, not his wife, but his baby mom, my girlfriend, whatever she is, has been so strong during this ordeal. And she does have a daughter as well. But yeah, losing a child is also, I can't, like I said, I can't even wrap my brain around what that's like. So Maria, we do have the minister, Kenneth Bryan, waiting. So we're going to pull him here in just a second. Miss Maria, thank you so much. She says that she has an individual in her family that she's been watching carefully for years. He doesn't really talk much, and he's a software developer, and he's working from home. And I live with my heart in my mouth. Oh, boy. Constantly check in with people and let them know that you're thinking about them and you're there for them, and that there's professional resources for them, because sometimes they're not going to talk to you as family and so on, but they will talk to a total stranger, if that makes any sense. So Jonathan says, if you think people are losing their jobs in the banking now, wait until these banks start putting those A1 accountant programs in their systems. Artificial intelligence, AI, sorry. Yeah. Good morning to Peter Campbell. Good morning, Miss Bonnie. Says money is the root of all evil. Well, I believe the Bible actually says it's the love of money that is the root of all evil. Even as far as I'm aware, the Bible admits that money is necessary. So money isn't the root of all evil. It's the love of money. So I think anything in excess, folks, is the problem. We all need money. Believe me, you. And even people who say that to me, by tomorrow, they're like, yeah, I got to pay my electric bill. Can I get some help? And it's like, but if money is the root of all evil, why are you worried about it? You're worried about it because you need money. Yes. All right. Listen. Let's bring in the minister. Let's play a quick commercial. Tomorrow, folks, get up early. Get yourselves registered from today for the tourism job fair, because it is on and you do not want to miss it. Are you interested in a rewarding and exciting career in tourism? Are you a Caymanian, a permanent resident with rights to work? Then you don't want to miss this upcoming tourism job fair on Thursday, December the 9th from 1 to 4 p.m. This amazing event will be a chance for you to speak with industry experts who have some 200 real-world jobs available at leading hotels and restaurants around the island. Show up with your resume in hand, best foot forward and a warm Cayman kind smile whilst dressed to impress. Pre-registration is highly recommended at jobfair.ourcayman.ky. The Tourism Job Fair is a collaborative project between Works, CITA, and the Ministry of Tourism and Transport.
Ho, ho, home for the holidays is here. Cayman Marl Road is offering a special Christmas supplement, ideal for retailers, service companies, and restaurants to showcase your products and services for the holidays. Do you sell gift certificates for a day at the spa? Specials on excellent electronic gift ideas, catering for the holidays? Then contact CMR Sales today. No business is too big or small. Take advantage of Cayman's #1 media outlet to showcase your Christmas offerings. Supplement publication date is December 18th, so contact us by December 13th for your display ads and sponsored content. CMR offers the island's best advertising rates with the largest reach. Don't delay. Call 324-1612 or sales@caymanmarlroad.com today.
All right, folks. So it is Christmas time. For the past 3 years, we've been talking about, doing supplements and not just the Christmas one. But I said this year, even if it's a one-page supplement, we're going to get it done. Because every year I'm like, let's do it. CMR, let's do it. And it takes a lot, I think, to be able to sell a supplement. And we do have some advertisers on board. We're going to stick them in there. And even if it's one page, we're going to do it. That's going to get the ball rolling. We're going to learn some things, no doubt. So that's our Christmas supplement. If you have a small business, or even if you just want to do a shout out, a greeting, whatever, contact us about how to get put in the Christmas supplement. And I think you do baby steps. So the next one that we'll probably do is maybe a Valentine's Day supplement. We'll do, I think, at least 6 a year, like back to school. There's some major ones that really make sense for a publication, online publication to do. So good morning to the Honorable Kenneth Bryan. I'm sure the minister has noticed how CMR continues to step things up with our beautiful commercials going into the holiday season. So did his internet just freeze up on him? Minister, who you got for internet? Tell them to sort that out for you. Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning, Sandra, and good morning to your listening and viewing audience here on Cayman Marl Road. It's a pleasure to be on. And yes, I have noticed your upgrades and your continued growth at Cayman Marl Road. It looks amazing. You got a full-fledged production level going on over there, all by yourself.
Yeah, we're getting it. And I'm excited to say that if all goes according to plan, that in early February of next year, we're actually going to be on the proper airwaves. So I'm super excited about that as well. Yes, things are coming.
Exciting. It's about time.
Coming to come.
That's what I say.
So welcome to the program, Minister. Thank you so much for coming on with us today. It is Impact Wednesday, which, by the way, sometimes I forget to play my Impact Wednesday video. So give me 1 minute and I'm going to cue that up. We do have one specific to Minister Bryan, which I absolutely love. So give me one quick second here. But how have you been? How, you getting ready for the Christmas holidays with the family?
Oh, yeah. Actually, I'm not really there in the zone for Christmas quite yet because, we're trying to get the budget approved.
Mm-hmm.
I'm happy to say in record time, even though they say that we're young ministers and new government that doesn't know, we actually have passed finance committee in a record time in parliamentary history in 2 days. So it shows the C in competency in the PACT administration. This is the quickest time a budget has been passed in the last over 20 years. So
we're gonna delve into some of the budget details because I definitely want to hear, especially specific to your ministry.
Yeah, no problem at all.
Okay.
I'm just really happy to say that,
let's queue up our Impact Wednesday. Let's queue up our Impact Wednesday segment, folks. So let's just remember that every Wednesday, it's open invitation for any members of the PACT government to come on the program and talk about what's going on, mostly in their constituencies, but obviously that spills over into sometimes their lives as a ministerial, like a parliamentary secretary or minister and so forth. So today is none other than the Honorable Kenneth Bryan, who's Minister of Tourism and Transport. All right, so beautiful. So Minister, thank you so much for coming on the program. So tell us, this is your first round in a position to be in Parliament and talking about budget. So give us a little bit of a recap on what happened for your ministry specifically.
Okay, thank you again, Sandra. Before I do that, I can't help but to recognize the glow in your face and the happiness in your production level there. With your Impact Wednesdays graphics. So congratulations. In respect to the budget, nothing too controversial. In respect to my ministry, the highlights of it is that we're doing a new project downtown, a multi-purpose facility. It will be a new tourism product for the Cayman Islands. It's we bought the old what was it, Red Tail, not Red Tail, old water sports property right above the just north of the Catboat Club. Or for those who may not know where the Catboat Club is, it's just north of Lobster Pot. It's that waterfront property there. It's almost 2 acres. And we're going to be turning that into a new tourism experience. And I'm so happy that my colleagues supported me on that. I want to personally thank every one of them, all the members in caucus, because they believed in my vision in respect to it. It's the first time we'll have such a large piece of property on the waterfront that Caymanians can call their own. My vision and plan there is to turn that into a nice restaurant and tourism cultural experience, as per the call by the tourism industry to have more authentic options and offerings for tourists. What I saw, one of the reports I read when I first became Minister of Tourism, is that tourists want authenticity. So offering more of the Cayman product. So the intention there is to do a multi-focus project. One, have a restaurant that will have an opportunity to train Caymanians and get them ready to go back out into industry. So you have a restaurant and bar run, and it could be used not only as an offering as a restaurant for local foods and the like, but also a turnover option for persons to come there, train for 6 months, so the industry can't say they don't have the experience. So you have the training and real life experiences in a running, functioning bar and restaurant. Also, it'll be the new location for the craft market. I want to say thank you to the Colonel family for allowing us to use that property there on the waterfront, right next to I think it's oh my God, I forgot the name of the road. Not Gorin Avenue. I apologize. Where the craft market is now, the lease for that comes to an end at the end of this month. It was a peppercorn lease given to government for many years, and the family is deciding to move forward to go in a different direction with it. So we have to find a new location anyway for the craft market attendees, and this new location will be one of the areas for it. This new property that the government purchased is also going to be a new location for heritage days, particularly on Pirates Week and special functions for musical events and so forth. I know a lot of people probably haven't seen the property well because it's been hidden from the view of the road because there's a lot of hedging there. But once we are finished developing it, I think people are going to be pretty impressed with what we will do with it and the size that's available and the many things that can happen there. It has access by way of water with a dock and a ramp. So we can include, water sports options there in respect to persons coming up to come to the experience via boat, not necessarily water sports as in we're doing jet skis or anything like that, but access from the water. So water taxis can be an option, connect directly to the hotels on the West Bay Road. But the main point of this is that the government now has acquired a very large piece of real estate on the waterfront that Caymanians can call their own. And what I mean by that is call their own from the perspective of, it's not being sold out to the commercial element, which is not necessarily a bad thing. But once it commercializes it, it's very limited for local access. This one can be seen as a place that locals and tourists alike can love and enjoy, which brings the authenticity in itself. So that's one key highlight of my budget. And the other one was the allocation of $2.5 million for a film rebate, one of the main focuses of the government. And we said so in our strategic policy statement delivered by the Honorable Premier, which is trying to focus on film and bring that industry larger. The last administration was successful with, during the pandemic, allowing 4 films to be done here. We want to add to that. No need to reinvent the wheel, so to speak, but just add on top of what they have done. And we're going to be doing some legislation, regulatory changes to entice more producers and directors to come to the Cayman Islands as an option. With film being the way it is, technology has taken a major step in the film industry by way of studios. So, you know, traditionally, you'd have to go to a location in order to film. But technology is so great now, you can have a studio built here in the Cayman Islands and film as if you were in New York. And the safety and the infrastructure and the amenities that the Cayman Islands offer, many directors and producers would probably like to come and do their productions here, while at the same time, if they want any of those scenic options of the Caribbean, we have that offering as well. And we have a lot of young Caymanians who like film and wants to develop their career in it. And we have to create the industry so they can learn and get the experience, as well as get money by way of having a salary through that. So that money allocation within my budget will be able to entice directors to say, when you come here, we'll give you a rebate depending on how much your film is, how much money you spend in the economy, and we'll give you back some. And this is what other nations do to entice major productions to come to their country. So I'm super excited about that. Another thing is $500,000 that will have been put aside for the beautification approach. As you know, my parliamentary secretary, Ms. Heather Bott, has been a major advocate for many, many decades now about the beautification of our country. So we put aside some money specific for that, for specific projects that we want to focus on. But it's not only going to be on beautifying, but enforcement of our current laws that mandate that people should keep properties and businesses, roadsides, and the like in certain conditions. We have a few laws already in place, but what we're having problems with is enforcement. So we're working on that. As at the same time, selected a committee to focus on areas of enforcement, what laws and what agencies need to do their part. The police have a role. The Department of Environment has a role. Community watch committees have a role. Everybody has a role in this. So we're going to be doing a lot more collaboration with that and have us set aside some money for it. The other thing is the government will be using, through me as minister, Cayman Airways to try to find 2 more new gateways. And 2 that I think many people may be excited about is we're exploring going into San Francisco as well as Los Angeles in the new year. So a direct flight to the West Coast with the new jets that we have, which gives us the ability to fly a farther distance, more fuel efficient, so there'll be cost savings there. But also it gives us the opportunity to support those other industries I was speaking about, like film. So if you have that connectivity to Los Angeles, as well as we already have that connectivity to Toronto, those are 2 main film hubs that we believe that if we have those gateways open, it'll help develop our film industry. San Francisco also has a high level of technology, infrastructure, and industry there. And because the technology part of things have already started to develop in Cayman with Tech City coming along and all of that, we believe a gateway into there as well is great. Not only for those 2 industries, but the West Coast also allows us to hit the Asian markets. Because, as you know, the Asian countries are closest to the West Coast of America. So we believe there's a great opportunity for some high net worth individuals who normally wouldn't get to the Cayman Islands because you have to take 3 or 4 flights. What we have now with the LAX being a major airport, 1 stop into LAX, from LAX straight to the Cayman Islands. And the more efficient you make that travel process, the more people will take it. So we're excited about that. In respect to transport, if most people have noticed, I haven't really address the transport issue very much yet, because we're trying to focus on reopening of the country as well as the budget. But the new year will be the time I'll start to try to focus directly on the transport department, because of traffic and all the other factors. But the traffic issue is a multi-ministry issue, from the NRA with Minister J.E. Banks, with roads and the infrastructure necessary, to the environment with the minister, the premier for sustainability. So collaboratively next year, we're going to be focusing on how do we redevelop our public transport, not the taxis and tours, but the public transport itself. I must say that I'm not happy with the current structure that it is there. It's very dangerous. The way the bus drivers drive, they don't seem to get a lot of control. But I don't want to upset the apple cart quite yet until I have a plan. So in the new year, one of the things I'll be doing is myself and my parliamentary secretary will be flying over to Bermuda or Bahamas. I can't remember, one of the other Caribbean islands, who has a great infrastructure system over there that we're going to be setting up to go visit, how they have it, how their operations are, and they're under a PPP, public-private sector partnership with the government over there. I'm thinking about something quite similar here. We want to start thinking about what kind of buses that we can implement in the Cayman Islands, obviously being eco-friendly, and how do we ensure that the Caymanians that are in the public transport transition into this new way forward, making sure that they don't lose out on any opportunities. So that's going to take a little while to develop, because you need regulatory change, legislative change, and the necessary monies to put in the infrastructure necessary. But the important part is that until you have a reliable, cost-efficient transport system, you can't put in the other restrictions that we need to reduce transport, to reduce traffic. Like, say, for instance, the restrictions on certain types of cars that are overloading our roads, as well as potentially if we want to restrict car numbers or what have you per family. You can't do those types of thoughts or ideas until you have something that is reliable, that you can be sure that the government will have functioning all the time. So we got to start with that part first, and then that allows the other areas of focus to affect the traffic problem to start to kick in. So it may not be something that is very profitable within the first couple of years, but until there's confidence in the system in respect to the public transport, then we'll see the cost savings down in the future. And some may see, well, okay, you may be at a loss, but we see it as an investment in the quality of life of persons, because maybe you may be operating at a loss with a new transport system, because you may only pick up 50 people for that day for that bus, but that bus costs you maybe the cost for 200 people to be on it per day. Long term, it will be better, because the value of people's life, less time in traffic, also the safety of persons on public transport would be reduced or improved. Let me rephrase that, because right now one of the biggest things for me in public transport is I'm really worried that one day we're going to have a major crash like what you've seen in Jamaica, with a busload of passengers on it, and because of the inappropriate driving practices, something goes heavily wrong and we have mass casualties. So those are just some of the highlights. The other things are just continued approaches to opening of our borders, continued marketing. We're going to be focusing more now on quality rather than quantity, focusing on more affluent, high net worth individuals. Another thing that was major in my my ministry and my budget was the focus location, which is where the private jets come in. I don't know if anybody has ever been there, but it's just a little small little hut. It's not really what you would consider to be your high end, where people spend lots of money to come in by private plane. And if we want to focus on the high net worth individuals, we have to fix the infrastructure necessary for it, and to promote that, particularly with the concept of quality over quantity. What the thinking is, if you don't need as many tourists, if each tourist spend more money. So if you get more persons with high net worth, they'll spend more money. Therefore, you get the same revenue reward. So these are some of the things we're thinking. Obviously, cruise is a major thing. We having the cruise ship come on the 28th, and like I said in my budget contribution, this is not expected to be what the norm will be going forward, but more so an opportunity to let people know we're not just going to kill cruise tourism, even though it has a lot of negative connotations in people's mind as to the effects over the decades on our way of life. But this is for those who live by cruise to know that the government isn't giving up on cruise, but we do want some changes. So what this first one does is the opportunity for us to iron out some kinks, see how best to operate, because it's going to be in a new way forward with the corona pandemic environment. What things do we need to iron out? So this is only one ship with a small set of number of people, 1,600. Nothing like what we were accustomed to on back pre-pandemic, which was 7,000 to 8,000 people in our harbors. Though that sounds attractive to some, from a money perspective and a revenue perspective, it affects the quality of life for others from a traffic overload of our attractions and our infrastructure, all of those other things. So that ship, that experience allows us to start to get back into the business very slowly. And I don't think that we're going to start to see any more cruises until probably the second month of next year, while we get past these concerns in respect to the virus. Because there's still a lot of people who are worried about what the cruise industry offers. It's just that this particular cruise had met the criteria that we wanted, that felt comfortable enough to allow them in. So that is another thing. And let me see what else.
Can you take a few questions, Minister? We do have some questions from our audience.
Sure. Before we do that, though, I just want to encourage everybody who's watching, because we're about to go into, after these questions, into the job fair. Please share this video now. If you're watching, share this video, because the more people see it, it might be just one person out there who's looking for a job who didn't know about it. So just press the share button for me, please. I beg of you. That's my Christmas present. Press the share button for me.
So we've got Dawn who's asking about taxi fee, please. And someone else related to what Dawn is inquiring about said that they were charged $25 from Camana Bay to the West Bay Fire Station, sorry. I thought some years ago that there was a policy set in place by the Public Transport Board where all taxi operators were charging the same fee for like a particular distance. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Because someone called me over the weekend to say that someone charged over $100 to go from the airport to a location, I want to say in North Side, and they were wondering if that sounded about right. And I told them, well, I didn't have an idea, but I knew that there had been this policy change in place, because it gave people an idea before they committed to taking a taxi, how much it would actually cost, so you can make sure you can afford it, you know? So what happens when someone gets in a taxi right now? Are there meters in there that are required?
No. Well, no, there's not meters in the taxis. Hopefully one day we can get to that point. Matter of fact, I think I could potentially see, there's some taxis that have had meters in there. So forgive me for not being absolute with that. But yes, there is a fee structure. And when you get into a taxi, the taxi is obligated to tell you what the price is before your travel. You can't just get in and tell you the price later. And there is a fee structure. Isn't it
about time that we brought taxi services into the 21st century with the, there has to be metering system that can be used across the board for all taxi drivers, and more importantly, that can be monitored at a central hub, which allows, the public transport authority or board to know that taxi drivers are following the rules and they're not overcharging people. I can't imagine that system doesn't exist.
Well, there is provisions for persons who believe that they have been overcharged or taken advantage of to report it. My recollection is that every taxi has to display their license, and there's I think there's a call number if in fact you have any questions or concerns about a taxi operation. or the service that you got, so the transport board and transport department can be aware. So if there's any infractions or you believe that there's some infractions, you can always call the transport department and we can rectify it there. And if any taxi driver is found and foul of the regulations, they can lose their taxi license, and it's something that we will not take lightly in that respect. So when you say take it into the new way forward, new world today, I agree with you to some extent, but there is limitations. So for example, transport today is more related to a lot of technology in the vehicles particularly. So there's two hurdles with that. One, there's a cost factor because this is still a private business on the individual. You just give a license for them to operate. So it becomes costly on each taxi driver if you mandate certain upgrades at a time right now when money isn't good. So it's hard to do that. The other part is a lot of taxi drivers are not technology efficient. They're not up to date in respect to that. And you don't want to create a system that pushes certain people out of the industry. So I can see that the former minister would have had the same problem with this. But there's also concerns that with the efficiency of today's service, say for instance, Uber, you have an Uber option. And I know that there was a struggle before that many of the taxi drivers today didn't want that kind of approach to come in because eventually they will be slowly pushed out of the market because maybe a person anyway below the age of 30 or 40 even, they can just order a taxi on their phone and do an Uber and they're gone, right? So the industry will try to protect its way. What we need to do is try to help the industry come along with the new reform because it's going to eventually happen regardless. But you don't want it to be at the expense of Cayman taxi drivers, and I'm committed to that. I don't want them to have to lose revenue, particularly now in a time when things are not good. But we will. This is the whole part of the reform that we have to look at in respect to transport. And taxi services have always been great in Cayman. A little bit more costly, and that has the factor to do with the fuel costs and all of those other things. Why the price is so high, as well as if you're going to a very long distance and it's only one person in the car, then it gets more expensive. But if you're taking 10 people, the prices come down. So all of those things, I want to do an overall review to see where we can make it more efficient, more cost effective. And the only way you can really do cost effective options is you privatize. I mean, you make it become a public service. And then that becomes a cost to the government. So
let me
things, I hope in the new year we'll be able to come out to the people with the thinking moving forward.
So someone just reminded us actually that there is a CIGO digital taxi fare calculator. So let me, I now that the person is saying this to me, I'm now remembering it, but to be quite honest, I had forgotten about this completely. So folks, this is useful. So you go to your app store if you have a smartphone and you download this, and this will tell you, right? You enter your route, you drop the little pin where you're starting from and where you're going to go, and it tells you in advance what your taxi fare will be. So folks, go to this website. If you have an Android phone or an iPhone, you simply scan the barcode to download it, or if you just search for it in your relevant app stores, this will help you out significantly. So at least you can pre-plan. And look at this. This has been around for quite some time now. So check out the Traffic Public Passenger Vehicles Amendment Regulations, which probably allowed this to happen going back to 2019. So I hope that's useful. Dawn and others who are asking about the taxi service, share this link. I'll copy it and put it in here and encourage other people to download it, because I think if you have an idea of what it's going to cost you in advance to utilize the taxi services, and obviously you can plan accordingly. So Louis is asking about the code of conduct. Don't forget, folks, the premiere is up tonight on tonight's program for Premier Access Wednesdays. That's every other Wednesday. So that's a question for him for sure, and we will be asking it.
Code of conduct.
The Cold Hard Truth now has your Premier access with Premier Panton.
Hello everyone, this is Wayne Panton. Come and join me on Cayman Mall Road's Premier Access every other Wednesday at 7 p.m. for a frank and open Q&A session. I'm here to answer your questions about the issues that concern you the most. Tune into YouTube and Facebook Live on Wednesday. We will see you there.
Full transparency, answering your questions, down to earth, accountable, and accessible to who matters. You. Don't miss Premier Access on the Cold Hard Truth, spilling the tea like no one else.
All right, folks. So that's a special edition coming up tonight, Premier Access. So Louis, make sure that you tune in.
Sandra, you're just showing off now. That's all that is.
No. We've been playing that, and we got to remind people. Last time we had a wonderful turnout, and we want to remind people that this is the Wednesday, because every other Wednesday, sometimes it's hard to remember and to keep track of when the premiere is up. But he's coming on this evening, so we got a whole slew of questions for him. And I think that should be at the top of the list. Someone else listening on the show says, good morning, Sandy, listening to the show. And my concern about the public transportation is, when will they revamp the public transport board, as many sitting members own some of the taxis and buses? Is that like a normal board where every every 4 years, normally every couple years they get
Well, it depends on how long they're appointed for.
Right.
And I must say that that the new board hasn't been implemented yet. And that's because of my delay. And I was waiting for our new colleague, the Parliamentary Secretary, John Dwayne Seymour, to come on board. And as you are aware, he's going to be helping me with transport. So I wanted to make sure that he had an involvement, because, we've been working behind the scenes to get John on board for a few months now. Obviously the secret's out, so I don't have to hide that anymore. And I didn't want to appoint a board without having his involvement. So now that he's here, it's just that he came in the middle of a budget. So I haven't had time to go ahead and appoint that. I've had some people that I was ready to put on the board who are not in the transport industry, because I agree with that person who sent the comment. There's a lot of times there may be a conflict of interest. Not conflict of interest, I hate to say that, but it's perceived to be that way because they're involved in the industry that they're supposed to be regulating, so to speak. But that's where it's hard to balance, because you want somebody who has the experience,
relevant knowledge
in the industry, with the relevant knowledge. But the only way you can find that is if you have somebody who is retired from the industry, who's probably up in age, but then you have the factor of relevance, because are they of today's standard? I don't want to say that the wrong way, but if you have a 70-year-old dealing with the transport, but are they aware of the CI Go apps and the new technology and all that? So it's a hard balance.
New innovations in the world of transportation.
Seniors can't do that or what have you, but exactly. So.
Absolutely.
But I'm happy to say that the persons that I have in mind are not going to be persons who work currently in the transport industry, as well as we need to change the makeup of the board, because currently the law mandates that there's only 4 appointments. So the board is made up of 9 people, but 5 of them are government employees, which don't have the right to vote or shouldn't be voting. As per the rules, but some of these old boards haven't been changed, or the structure of the old boards haven't changed in so long that they've, in one law they're saying that they're allowed to vote, in another law you're saying a public servant should never vote. So you have these conflicting things. So I have to make amendments to that. I want to reduce some of the public servants and increase the number of appointments, because right now we have 5 public servants and 4 appointees. The government will never be able to get their mandate done, because the appointments are the ones who are supposed to carry out the government's policy. So I want to change that to more of a 3 with a 6. Keep it at 9, but 6 appointments So until I get that change in the new year, I'm going to go ahead and appoint 4 persons. And then once I get the law changed, then the gap that needs to be filled, I'll appoint a couple more people. So that will be in the new year.
Okay.
But reason for that delay, just to confirm, is focusing on the reopening, focusing on trying to get tourism back, as well as the budget will start to address the transport in the new year.
Okay, so we've got Catherine, who says, will the minister be utilizing our local water sports operators for this project? And it's a great idea. So that was a project that you were speaking of earlier.
Well, we don't intend to have water sports options directly from there. What I was talking about in respect to the water sports connectivity is the fact that we have a dock on that property, whereby, you know, bringing customers to the location can come up to the dock. I don't think I would get into having operations of watercraft there at the location. The location is more of an on-land experience rather than a water sports experience. It's just that people who are on boats can come there, get off, have lunch, have dinner, go to a craft market, go to a musical event, get back on your boat, go back to the Ritz or wherever else you're going, or even locals who have their boat can drive up to it and say, I'm going to go down to, you know, this new option and potentially go to, you know, the Parish Culture Festive Day and just come and get tie up my boat next to the dock. So not from an offering of a particular sporting event.
Okay. All right, a few more questions coming in. Troy Leacock says, thank you for continuing to fund the Stingray feeding program. Will the displaced tourism worker stipend be continued into next year? And will there be an additional payment in December?
Thank you, Troy, for that question. Boy, you know, they're always asking for more. Every time they ask, we give them some more. Then they go, well, can you get some more of this? Can you get some more of that, right? So Troy, thank you. You never fail to ask for more. But there will be no additional payments in December. There will be your standard $1,500 of this month for stipend recipients. So I want to clarify, when he says additional, he may be talking about more than the 15, but we're going to stick to the 15. And as per the plans, we are currently still scheduling to pay up till March of next year. Another major thing that came out in the budget debate is the government's plan to transfer the stipend management over to the Ministry of Border Control, which falls under the Honorable Deputy Premier Christopher Saunders. And the purpose for that is to move it away from the Department of Tourism over to Labor. Now, Labor, we believe that the stipend payments would be better suited at the Labor Department because they can work better with work to make sure that the persons who are receiving the stipend are also working with work to try to get work, because we eventually these stipends have to come to an end, but we can't just do a hard cut. We have to ensure that those who are receiving the stipend or who no longer receive the stipend are getting a fair share opportunity into work. So the work department will be working closely with the stipend recipients to assist them going forward. Now, if they don't want to make the effort on their own, then the department will make a decision to say, listen, okay, we've tried to assist, you're not putting in the effort, therefore, you know, we may have to, you know, okay, cease your payments now. But you don't want it to be a hard drop. We want it to be a gradual transitioning people back into the industry now that things are opening, which is what one of the things I would like to speak about this morning is that job fair that is happening tomorrow at the West End. So that's the plan there. I think that the one of the main things is that the Department of Tourism was dealing with the stipend, and the stipend takes a lot of work. There's over 3,000 odd persons, close to 4,000 people who receive this stipend. And that processing every month takes a lot of time and a lot of employees. So there's about 7 to 9 people in the Department of Tourism that has to deal with that. But that was okay when we were locked down for those staff to deal with that because they didn't have any other work because the borders are closed. Now that the borders are open, I have to get those persons back to doing what they were doing before in the Department of Tourism, to focus on the promotion and the marketing events for tourism to get people back here. So one of the things I said to my team, it says, there's one or two ways to do this. It's either one, you give me more staff so those who are dealing with the stipend can get back to the marketing of the tourism product. So to help with the stipend, or it goes over to another ministry. And after analyzing the situation, we said, these people who are receiving the stipend, we eventually need to stop the stipend. It can't go on forever. I think it's fair that everybody understands that. So what's the best way to do that? So we was thinking about the needs assessment unit. But then we said, you know what, the best place to do that is to do with work, where work can monitor the job opportunities and try to transition them off the stipend into a job. Hence the reason why we're pushing so hard for putting Caymanians back in the tourism industry. And I wouldn't even say back in the tourism industry because it was there before, but also for persons who want to try a new career in it, because it is the government's policy to increase the percentages of Caymanians within the industry.
So let's talk a few things around tourism. So we have Ms. Romelia who's asking really about protecting workers. So she says, her comment says, good morning, Sandy and Cayman. My question for Minister Bryan is, we hear...
Up there, Sandra. I didn't...
Okay, so she just says good morning. And my question for Minister Bryan is, we hear so much about the reopening of tourism. What is being done to protect our people in tourism? For example, discrimination in the workplace, cruise ships being allowed to sell as much local tours as they feel like, and our taxi drivers suffer. How can you put Cayman first in those areas?
Okay, do me a favor, bring the question back up on the screen.
Yes,
that way I can address it, because it's multifaceted, right? So
yes,
discrimination in the workplace doesn't only happen in tourism, it happens all across the Cayman Islands. So, you know, our job, particularly in work, I am confident that the minister, the Honorable Deputy Premier Christopher Saunders, who's in charge of labor in this country, will be taking an iron fist in respect to that. It's something he's been talking about for many, many years while we were in opposition, and he will take a no-nonsense approach to that. So discrimination in the workplace is something that we as a community have to recognize that we play a major part in this. That's the employees and the employers. We don't want those kind of environment creates other social problems as well. So from the enforcement arm, better responses to investigations of these types of things, holding people, violators of discrimination, accountable, and calling them out publicly as well. Because the only way that people stop is you shame them publicly, because it's disappointing when you hear these types of things happen. We don't want to create those kind of work environments. Now, in respect to the other part of the question, cruise ships allowed to sell as much tours as they feel like. Well, that's the name of the business. The cruise ships themselves don't sell the tours. Will not be supported. I don't know if it was happening before, but the cruise ships themselves should never, ever be involved in owning a tour or a business locally. And if that happens, it most likely is happening on their fronting option, because then you cut out the middleman, which is the common operator, Caymanian operator who operates these services. So we're not going to be allowing that. So if they want to sell Caymanian tours, sell as much as you possibly can. That means more business for Caymanian tour operators, and taxis and water sports operators. So I'm fine with that. But it has to be within the model that we're offering in respect to the quantity amount. So one of the key things that I have to establish in this reforming of the cruise industry is, what is our ideal number? What is it? Is it 2,000 a day? Is it 3,000 a day? Is it back to 7,000 a day? What is ideal for our people that creates still good economic stimulus, good money for these persons who've invested their lives and their businesses in this type of industry? Because I've heard people say, oh, we don't need cruise again. And I said, you have to think about that. There's people who've taken all their savings and invested in this product because it was an industry that was there. You can't just shut it down. And not only that, it does bring revenue. Now, there's a good balance point that we have to meet, that everybody can still operate, live good. It doesn't affect our way of life here, and don't put too much strain on our environment. But where that is what is trying to be analyzed now as we move forward with the reforming. And I obviously know that that number is a lot less than what was there before. What exactly is it? I can't say right now, but the report and research will tell us that, and I'll be able to inform the public a little bit more moving forward. So, but if you're going to reduce the number, you have to also be mindful that you can be reducing the revenues as well as the economic opportunities for the businesses who are in that industry. So less people, less persons for them to make money on. So my principal theory is hypothetically, the number was 100 persons, and that's too much for our industry, and we want 70 persons. How do the industry still survive on 30% passengers? Well, the best way to do that is to make sure that those 70 are higher spenders that would spend the same amount of money as the 100. Therefore, you still get the economic benefit. You still get the spend with the tour operators. So hypothetically, a person going to Stingray City, they normally take out 50 people, at $20 a head. If you take out 25 people at $40 a head, you make the same amount of money, less amount of fuel, less stress on the Stingray City environment, all of these factors. So it's about less persons, higher quality, higher spend, same outcome. That's the thinking. But how to formulate all of that, how to get industry stakeholders to work together to agree to this is what is the challenge. And that's the thing we're going to be embarking on as a result of now that we have a cruise ship organized. I've got the select committee that's going to be working on formulating how to get industry to do this. Now, the best way to do that really is a union that anybody's within that industry agrees to pricing scales. But that's a little bit harder challenge than you may think. Sometimes you're your own worst enemy. But I'll be working on that, and I'll work with industry. I intend to meet with them soon once we've finished up the debate this week, and we'll go down that road.
All right, we do have a few more comments. Blair Webb says, yes, all the cheap imports are cheap because places with laws about emissions wouldn't allow them on the road. So all the cars we're getting down here are polluting our air too much. Was there I thought I heard something about this. I do see Ms. Ramelia is actually in the back room wanting to come on the chat. But was there something about this some years ago where there's supposed to be a government policy or shift where certain cars can't be imported into the Cayman Islands? I'm talking about a lot of these Japanese cars that can't be on their streets. So they're off-market cars in Japan, because I was just watching a video 2 days ago. Apparently Japan has very strict road safety rules about what they will allow on their own roads. So essentially, it means that every couple of years in Japan, people are having to upgrade their vehicles to remain compliant. And so those vehicles end up on the secondhand market where they are ripe for the picking, especially for the Caribbean. And we import a lot of, Japanese model vehicles here. Were we, correct me if I'm wrong, but I heard something about this. We were actually looking at increasing our own standards, where some of these vehicles would no longer be meeting the stricter requirements for safety in particular. Are we still looking at that?
Yeah, we are. We're always looking at it. Every government will continue to look at it. But I'll say that, let me say what you're thinking out loud. Basically, some other jurisdictions have restricted cars that are anything older than 5 years can't come in, right? That's one of the policies. And I think Jamaica has some restrictions, some of the other Caribbean islands. We haven't brought in those restrictions yet. And it's something that has been explored in the parliament and discussions and debates. The former member for Prospect, Mr. Austin Harris, did a report on this, and there are plans to move forward. But it comes with a cost. So here's the cost. Let's talk about the benefits first. Less emissions, newer cars. So it's not a lot of these old Japanese vehicles you see around the place. So you'll see more of if you were to take that policy, you would see more newer cars, less smoke and emissions in the air. So they're environmentally friendly. But the flip side to making that restriction is then everybody's forced to buy a more expensive car. So you break out the small man out of the equation, because the small man no longer can say, boy, I saved $5,000, I can get a Japanese vehicle. Because any car, anything less than 5 years old, is going to be within your $15,000 to $20,000 range. And that will fluctuate depending on the model of the car and the features that it has and so forth, but it obviously is more expensive. So the thinking was, if you changed it to that, yes, you help one way, but then you hurt me. So going back to concern before, the bus system is that, say, if you make it so hard for the small man to get a car, how is he going to get to work? Do you want to do that? Are you going to take up the small man to get a vehicle out of the picture, but then he can't get to work? What are you exchanging for? So if you have an efficient bus service where they can get to work at a very cheap rate, then you can say, I can bring this policy in place now to say, okay, I haven't hindered you from getting to work or your kids to getting to work. You can take this bus service from East End straight to West Bay at a mere $1.50 per day, a lot less than the fuel you even take. But you have to do one thing first before you implement the other. Now, I am strong about that because these Japanese vehicles that are flooding our market is also one of the things that are debeautifying our country. Because I'm so tired of seeing cars on the road. And I promise all of those who are viewing, if you have cars in the street, I am coming for you next year. I am dead serious about that because I'm going to change the rules and we will be penalizing and fining people who make a mess of our community if they just have 15,000 cars just around the place. And it really looks bad. We've never been that type of country. If you have one vehicle or a second vehicle that you're working on, keep it in the appropriate way. But cars to be left on the side of the road, cars taking part of it. I don't know where that culture came from because it's never been a Caymanian way. But I will be addressing that in the new year. So getting back to the original part of the question about the cars. So if you want to reduce certain types of vehicles from coming here, it comes with a cost factor. And this government is not about making the small man have to suffer anymore. You know, we want them actually ease the pain. But how do we ease the pain for those persons, but at the same time address the traffic problem? Because less cars in the road would be good, but they have to still get to work. And the fact that most of the work, 80% of your work in this country is in the Georgetown area. So it's a multifaceted approach. And I think the key first step to this is a proper, efficient running transport system. Now, in respect to this reduction of cars, it doesn't fall under me as Minister of Transport. You see, transportation has a number of facets. So NRA and vehicles and driver's license fall under a different minister. So those regulations and legislation of what kinds of import would have to come from a different minister. I'm the Minister of Transport for the purposes of licensing taxes, toll taxes, and public transport, not from the road perspective. So the traffic comes from the amount of cars. So obviously, but we would work in collaboration as ministers. So I've spoken to Jay, and our plan is to let's focus on trying to get this bus system up and going. But the other hurdle to that is we need the necessary infrastructure for it. So if you were to go inside and say, okay, all the buses that are there now, we're shutting them down. I'm not saying that's what's going to happen, so don't take it out of context. But hypothetically speaking, we're going to bring in new, bigger buses that are more fuel efficient, eco-friendly, and they're going to be at a very cheap rate, reliable, comes at 7 o'clock sharp, drops you off at 7:45 sharp without delay. If that comes into place, we brought that in right now, then you can start to take more stringent approaches to saying, okay, less cars. But that comes with money. Think about how many buses we may need to order and how much each bus costs. If you have an eco-friendly, potentially an electrical bus, and you need to run, say, from Georgetown to West Bay, you need to run 5 of those constantly going throughout the day, right? And from Georgetown to East End and North Side, you need 10. Almost 15 buses, and those buses running about close to $100,000 a pop. You're easily at close to $2 million. And then the operations for the running of them, the upkeep, maintenance, location where they'll be housed, as well as the persons who are going to be driving it. Because one of my visions is to transform it from a private sector initiative to a public sector where it's managed by government, but those persons who are drivers that are Caymanian can get the opportunity to become a bus driver for the government, because we want to subsidize it so it becomes cheaper. So if even if I could do all of that right now, it will take some time, but we don't have the financial freedom. So one of the models I'm looking at is a PPP, public sector, private sector partnership, where the government can give them the authority to regulate this and run it. But then if you give it to private sector in some degree, then they're going to want to charge to make a profit. Then you eliminate the problem that you wanted in the first place, which is making it very, very cheap so people can want to take it. So that balancing act has a lot to do with our revenues. That's why we need to open the country, which I heard you say earlier. We really need to get the borders fully open to get the revenues back up to par, because those revenues is what we need to do some of these problem-solving initiatives that we want. And that's why I'm so disappointed with the opposition, and they're talking about the spend. They know that in order to fix some of these problems, we need to have the monies necessary to spend them. The crazy thing about this, and let me share this with you before we take the next question, Sandra. The government opposition yesterday voted against the government's $300 million in borrowing to do capital projects. And then they supported a $25 million spend on the school. But I said, I had to ask the question, how are you going to vote for the monies for the school, but you're voting against the borrowing? The money for the school is from the borrowing. So they're playing politics with the people. And it's disappointing because they all voted against us using to borrow the money. Every country in the world right now has to borrow because of the state of their economy. And it's nothing new in respect to things. And I'm really disappointed that they're playing politics with it, because I guess they didn't want the school to be finished by voting against the capital borrowing. But I've only given you the complexities of the timing of things, because yes, you're elected, you're the government, you said you're going to do this, do it now. Now, honest to God, I wish Dart, if you want to lend us $500 million, I'd be happy to take it so we can get some of these problems solved. But unfortunately, we don't have that luxury yet. So we got to get the revenues back up so we can get these initiatives going. But in the interim, until the revenues get there, we're going to do all the necessary legislative changes and framework necessary that when the revenues are there, or we execute a PPP, that we can hit the ground running right away. So I'm thinking that we're probably not going to have that level of reform until 2023 in respect to the transport system.
All right, so Ms. Ramilia has been patiently waiting, and she has some comments or questions. Good morning.
Good morning, Sandy. Good morning, Mr. Bryan. I'm not seeing anyone.
Well,
Good
we're
morning.
seeing you perfectly fine.
Okay, my question for Minister Bryan. I know he said that would bring the selling of tours on board of the cruise ship would bring more business for tour operators, tour bus operators. What about taxis? My concern is about taxis. I am a taxi driver, and I have seen including myself, have witnessed 6-7 ships comes in, and sometimes some of us doesn't even get a tour due to the fact that it's all pre-booked. That's not fair to the taxi drivers. We're in this business just as well as the tour bus operators. And personally, I don't think the ship should be allowed to sell out all tours on board, because what they're charging on board is hilarious. What they're paying out to tour operators is petty cash, and the taxi drivers are suffering. Enough time I've seen taxi drivers come out to the port and go back home empty-handed. Now, that's not looking out for Caymanians. That's not looking out for our people. We need an equal playing field. We need to be ensured that our people are getting work. Yes, we have 6-7 ship comes in, and that each sector is getting their fair share. Because, it hurts to see that, we taxi drivers have bills as well. Not only the tour operators, we taxi drivers have bills as well. So therefore, we taxi drivers need a piece of the pie just as well as the tour operators. Some of us cannot afford to go and purchase a 32-seater bus just to get a piece of the pie. That's not fair to us. And
Mr. Malia, Mr. Miller, if I would like to interact with you in respect to this discussion, because what
I
you're
tried
explaining
two
is
times and I
actually
got turned down from meeting with you.
I don't think you were turned down, sweetheart. I think you tried to speak with me through the budgeting process, and I'm happy to still speak with you. You know that the whole industry, but with the reopening as well as the budget. But that's not the point. The point is this: what you have suggested is that the taxis should get some of the tour bus business. If the tour buses said, "Oh, I want to come and get some of the taxi business," then you may have an uproar. Here's where I think the problem has become. First off, there's too many taxis in the industry in the first place, and they flood the market with too many taxi drivers for the market share that is available, right? So, and for you to say that they shouldn't be able to pre-book them, if you understand how the cruise works, the passengers need to know what they're going to be doing before they do it. Now, if a person says, I just want to get off and walk around the town and then take a taxi, that percentage may be low. And what we have is a lot of taxi licensed persons waiting around for a very small market share. I personally, in my view, and I'm happy to be corrected, the taxi drivers should be focusing on the stayover element and have a small portion available in the event that persons who are coming off not pre-booked want to say, you know what, I just want to do it with the free-handed. Now, in respect to the costing, tour operator is receiving from the cruise line, I agree with you wholeheartedly. The cruise industry is forcing each tour operator and water sports operators, forcing them to fight against each other for a small piece of the pie. That's the part I want to address. But that takes collaboration of all members of the industry working together. And you may have heard me say something like, it may take something similar to a union where they all agree to certain pricing. Just like the taxi service has said, listen, you cannot charge X, Y, and Z, and this is the price and scale. Therefore, there's no disagreement as to what you're going to be receiving when you do a certain job. And I want to bring that same approach to the cruise industry in respect to tours, water sports experiences, particularly that of things that the government own, like the Stingray City. So I understand your concern, but the fact that there was so many taxis offered a license as opposed to what the industry can hold, I think was what the problem was in the first place.
No, I think what's happening, I don't think I've understood from passengers that I've driven. They were told on board the ship not to take the taxis because the taxis would take them and don't pick them back up and get them late for the ship. And if they get late, then they would have to fly to the next destination. So that is playing a big role in scaring our passengers as well. And personally, a taxi driver told me personally he went on tour and he overheard them saying the same thing. Which I asked him, why didn't you speak out against it? Because that's bringing down our taxi drivers. That's killing our credibility. Yet when people come off the ship, they experience something different. And I mean, they're just doing that to sell tours. But at the end of the day, it is not fair to the taxi drivers. We taxi drivers needs to be able to get to get tours off of the ship as well. So I don't know how it's going to work out because in the past, I don't think it was allowed as much in the past with our past politicians, with Miss Anna Holden, Jim Borden, and all of them. Then when I questioned the last minister regarding it, he says, oh, well, if they stop that, the ship would pull out. The people who have been coming to the Cayman Islands for the friendliness of our people, to meet our people, for our lovely 7 Mile Beach, for a lot of our attractions. So I don't see what would cause, if people can't cruise in, wouldn't they fly in? I think our government feet need to be put down and say, look, my people come first. My people needs an equal share, not just tour operators. Also, on the other note with the discrimination, yes, everywhere you have discrimination, but Kenneth, not like how they have in these hotels. not like how they have in these hotels. It is hilarious, as you well know. As you know, that I was a victim of discrimination in the workforce, and I stood up and stood out against it. I'm one of unfortunately, one of the Caymanians who would be willing to stand up to anyone who is doing me wrong. And it is real. You have people are being hired over our Caymanians, Dubai, Africa, Nepal, all over the world is being hired in the tourism sector over our Caymanians. Who more to serve in our tourism field more than our Caymanians? Everywhere else the world you go in tourism, you find that nationality working in tourism. They're not overpowered by foreigners. It's only here in the Cayman Islands that you find foreigners over Caymanians in the tourism workforce. Which is it right? Because in a lot of time they're misleading the tourists and telling them things that isn't accurate. Things that how things come about and the history of our island is being told a lie. So I mean, there's places like in tourism that should be born Caymanians that knows about our island, not someone who comes in and try to learn our history and at the end of the day telling false things about our island that doesn't exist. Because in more than one time I had to correct people. No, that's not right. That's not true. This is how this happened, and this is where this place is.
Well, Ms. Romelia, I think you've hit a lot of points just in respect. I think you hit a lot of points this morning in respect to the realities of what is happening, and that's exactly what I'm trying to fix. The interesting point is that the Cayman First position. I just saw last week where the opposition was beating the government to death because we are telling the industry they have to put Caymanians first. And you know what they said? You know what the former premier of that country said? We need to open up the work permits. That's his position. That's what the opposition thinks. While we're standing firm to say, listen, there's many Caymanians who are unemployed. So we're trying, and the industry itself, we're trying to get them to come along, because I don't want to create a negative environment, but the employers have to play their moral responsibility to the bigger picture called Cayman. Because when people are not employed, when people can't survive, negative things happen. Crime goes up, as well as the social welfare cost goes up as well. So we're trying to convince them to say, listen, you have to invest in our people by giving them the opportunities. But what do you do when they don't want to try to do so? I've been accused by the industry, including the CETA president, that we're not allowing work permits, and that's going to cause a problem. When if it wasn't for my hard comments, we wouldn't have a job fair tomorrow. They said they need 600 people, but in the job fair it says 200 jobs.
Coming up. Mr. Amelia, thank you so much for your comments. We appreciate it. Have a good day.
Okay, thank you, Sandra.
All right, my dear.
Thank you.
Okay, let's talk about the job fair, Minister, because I do have a number of people. Andrea did send in a comment saying that the corruption in the transportation department with the bus routes needs to be cleaned up. So she's making quite a serious allegation there. But Donnie and some others are talking about the job fair. So Donnie says, I hear when our Caymanians go to this job fair tomorrow, I hope that they don't just be taking their phone numbers and that's it. Why not just do an interview on the spot? Please show up so they don't bring your resume. So Donnie makes a fair point. The job fair is happening tomorrow at the Western Ballroom. And folks, if you don't show up, you have proven the naysayers and the people who say that they need a work permit. You've proven them correct if you do not show up to the job fair tomorrow. And I'm hearing people saying, oh, it's a waste of time. It's a waste of time. You need to give the process an opportunity to work. So if you don't show up, you can't be counted. And if you don't show up, if they've got 200 jobs, 400 jobs, 600 jobs, whatever, and 50 people show up tomorrow, then the industry, the Mark Vonder, whatever the heck his name is, of the Ritz gets to say, see, we told you there are no Caymanians interested in tourism. So you have to approve for work permits.
Sandra, please allow me to chime in respect to this. I thank you so much for bringing that up, because I want everybody to listen to me carefully. It's very, very important. If we fail to show that they're Caymanians ready to go back to work, then you buy into his concept that Caymanians don't want it. Now, I know that there's a sentiment in the background to say, I don't want to go because you know they're going to take us for a joke that I don't really give us the job. Allow me to do my part. But you got to show up. I can't fight. I can't hold industry to account without you showing up, because the opposition is on their bandwagon. The opposition is fighting in parliament against you by saying you need to open up the work permits while we're trying to get the people back to work. If you don't show up, I'm going to have no battleground strength at all to say to them. They're going to say, how can this Minister of Tourism want the tourism industry to work when there's only 50 Caymanians who showed up to work to try to get a job, and we need 600, and we can't open the hotels and the restaurants and have the employees necessary to run the industry, and they're going to start beating on me while I'm here standing to protect you. I need you to come tomorrow. Please don't disappoint me, because I've gone to task with industry. There's big players out there who want my neck. What we're doing, what this government is doing, is holding the position to say, I'm sorry, status quo ain't going to work no more. They like it when they can have people they can control. They like it they can have people that they pay less to. They like they got people that can be discriminatory to, because most work permit holders don't care about that. They got enough money, they'll cut and they'll go. Caymanians don't want that. If we come now and upset the apple cart and say, we demand more Caymanians, the money model, the profit model that they have is going to be disrupted. So they don't like me right now, and I know that, but you know what? That's too bad. My people sent me to do a job. But if you don't help me, particularly those who are unemployed, by showing up and proving to them that you are ready and prepared to work, I lose. And I'm going to have to put my hands in the air and say, all right, I'm sorry, my people didn't show up. Then I'm going to have to grant the work permits. That's the position. If nobody shows up tomorrow, if a good number of people do not show up tomorrow, I can't go back to industry and say, I'm sorry, 600 people showed up to your fair. Why haven't you hired them? And it's not going to be a situation where they come and take your telephone number and your email. I want proof. Show me why you didn't hire them. That's what I need. If you don't give me that, it's going to go back to the old way. I'm telling you. That's the only leverage I have. This is the opportunity to do it now. And if you don't show up, please, I'm begging you, call everybody that you know that doesn't have a job. Please share this video and let them know to show up. Because if they don't show up in numbers, I've lost. Because I know they're ready and waiting. Listen, I'm going to show you an example of how I know this. 2 weeks ago, they came out with an article saying the ministry or the government, and they're going to speak about tourism, they're talking about me. So the government doesn't know what they're doing in respect to the industry. We need jobs. We've applied for work permits and they don't want to approve them. That was the indication from this government that we're not ready for approving those tourism-related work permit holders right now because we want Caymanians first. So it's a conscious effort, and they know that, right? So they're saying now, oh, look at us, we're going to be doing this job fair. Hold on. Mark Longevon, and I'm going to be specific, Mark Longevon said in a comment, if we were really prepared for reopening, we would have had these work permit approved a month ago. A month ago, and you haven't had one job fair yet? Why is the job fair not happening until tomorrow? That tells me they're not being sincere. And I'm ready for the battle. I'm telling you, my people, you put me here and I'm going to stand firm. But if you don't stand with me and do the right thing, I'm going to lose this battle called Cayman First. And I cannot justify to business owners to say not to give them the employees that they need to operate, to survive, to pay their mortgages, to pay their debts, if we do not show up. So I'm begging you, please do, because I don't want to lose in the very first battle I get into as your Minister for Tourism. So I need you. I want the West End flooded. I want them to stop people from going in so they can make the regulations as per person to go inside, and they do another 100 afterwards, and do another 100 afterwards. I want to show them that we are ready to take back the tourism product, because it is Caymanian. And I can't sell a product to the rest of the world as a tourism minister if we're not willing. Now, one more thing, and I think that was a cue for me there, Sandra. I appreciate it. One more thing. I know that most people would say, Sandra, you there?
Yes, my apologies. I was just pulling this up because I wanted to say that let's be clear about what you need to do, right?
Let me say one more thing. Let me say one more thing, and let me say one more thing, please. I know that many people may not be attracted to tourism because of the pay scale. I don't want you to be deterred by that, because the government do intend to increase the minimum wage. We already have it on our agenda for the minimum wage review to be done next year. So hopefully we'll have a new minimum wage by next year. So you'll have the opportunity to say you'll be making more money, as well as gratuities. If you're a good worker, you can make mad money. Plus the minimum wage is going to increase. So don't let that stop you. Now is the time to take the opportunity. Sorry, Sandra, you can go ahead now.
Yes. And I mean, let's be fair. I mean, I think that's why this census that is ongoing now is so important, because nobody can say how many people are actually working at minimum wage. And I think that there are a lot of people, to be quite frank, Minister, who are in tourism and they don't work at minimum wage. They're making above that. So people, I think, need to be, everybody talks about minimum wage. They act like every single person is making minimum wage, and that simply isn't true. So listen, here are the steps. You need to go to jobfair.ourcayman.ky. You pre-register. So do that today. You can do it from your phone. Go to Works if you have no access to computer, because I believe they still have a small computer lab there that you can jump on. They will help you work on your resume if required, right? And in fact, after the job fair, they set up some time for people to be able to tweak their resumes and so on, because it's important for you to have a good resume. I saw a young lady, Allison, commenting on one of the social media posts where someone says, oh, don't waste your time going to the job fair because they haven't had any luck. And they've been looking, and Allison said she had the same situation until professionals sat down with her and went through how to put together a proper resume. And then all of a sudden she started getting phone calls. So folks, resumes are the first impression that people have of you before they even see you. So make sure that your resume is up to par. So you pre-register. I've just put the link here in the comment section. You pre-register. Then you can actually, in the pre-registration process, you give an indication of what time you're going to be there. So the job fair is from 1 p.m. until 4 p.m. at the Westin Ballroom, right? Because of COVID restrictions and social distancing restrictions in place, there will be some degree of coordination that is required. That's why they're asking you for time frame of when you're going to be there. So show up on time, set a good impression. They're going to have people and seats socially distanced, and they'll be allowing people in by a certain number at a time. Because remember, there are restrictions on how many people can be in indoor space and outdoor space right now with the COVID regulations. So get there in a timely fashion. Take your resume with you, even if it needs to be tweaked. You'll have an opportunity to be interviewed by employers at hotels and restaurants, and you got to dress smart. And as the advert says, make sure that you have your K-Mankind face on. Go with your game face, folks. This is some serious business here. Let's all show up in droves. I will be there tomorrow on at least 2 occasions to encourage everyone to come out to the tourism job fair. Are you interested in a rewarding and exciting career in tourism? Are you a Caymanian, a permanent resident with rights to work? Then you don't want to miss this upcoming tourism job fair on Thursday, December the 9th from 1 to 4 p.m. This amazing event will be a chance for you to speak with industry experts who have some 200 real-world jobs available at leading hotels and restaurants around the island. Show up with your resume in hand, best foot forward, and a warm K-Mankind smile whilst dressed to impress. Pre-registration is highly recommended at jobfair.ourcayman.ky. The Tourism Job Fair is a collaborative project between Works, CITA, and the Ministry of Tourism and Transport. So, folks, someone was inquiring because they said that, you know, the job fair seems to be focused on just, you know, the restaurant side of things, servers and so on. And they're asking about what about the other jobs in tourism, the accounting jobs and so forth. Folks, my understanding is that the Department of Tourism and the ministry is putting on this as one of several job fairs. So go out, get your resume in circulation. The other thing that I've been told is going to happen differently this time around under the PACT administration is that there will be a follow-up with candidates who actually registered. So they will be contacting you to say, hey, you registered, you submitted your resume. Do you need any help with your resume? Were you contacted by any of the employers? And they're going to do some follow-up to really put the employers to task in terms of what is going on. So don't think that your resume is just going to end up in file 13 and nothing happens. Now, before I bring the minister back on, I do want to address this question. I'm aware that we're a little bit into overtime, and child, I got to get to court this morning to see this wife testifying on behalf of her husband in this child porn case. I want to hear what she got to say. But anyway, before we jump into that, let's listen to the previous premier of the country, Alden McLaughlin, and what he had to say in Parliament on December the 1st. I'm so perplexed. That was a week ago, last week, Wednesday. I'm so perplexed sometimes by the former premier and the things that he has had to say in the past when it comes to Caymanian employment opportunities, because this is also, I think he was minister. He might have been premier at the time when he made these remarks, when he said that Caymanians should be happy for work permit holders to come in, because when they come in and they set up companies and, you know, they hire lawyers and whatever that are on a work permit, we get the trickle down benefit of being their secretaries and their front desk receptionists and messengers, as though that is the best that Caymanian can hope for. We can't get to the top, because he didn't say, oh, you guys are going to get management jobs. He said, you get the trickle down, you'll get the crumbs, you'll get to be a messenger, you'll get to be, a front desk receptionist and a secretary. And I thought, wow, talk about setting the bar really low for your own people. But nonetheless, here he is at it again with yet another comment that really is raising eyebrows. So let's have a look at what's his name, MP Alden McLaughlin had to say. So here we go, folks. This is straight from the horse's mouth. I can't make this stuff up.
And I do hope, Mr. Speaker, that he will be able to contribute to the work of the new government, because Lord knows they need all the help they can get. I don't know, Mr. Speaker, how so many of them can stand up in this house and preen the way I've heard some of them, not all of them, some of them do. They must be living in some parallel universe, because I move around this island, every single district. I spend a lot of time these days in places of ill repute.
Must be the bars.
But I learn what people are thinking and what is on the ground. And I can find no constituency of support, no approval of the way the government is managing and has managed the COVID pandemic since they took office. None. I understand that there is an assessment that is being written now that will be out published in another few weeks. We shall see what that says. But, Mr. Speaker, I can say this. Were I still the premier, management of this would have been very different. Very, very different. Mr. Speaker, without question, at some point, the country had to reopen. But I don't know who thought the point to reopen was when the virus was at its highest peak in terms of spread through the community. Because that's where we are now.
My apologies. I'm actually going to fast forward this because I noticed that I'm supposed to be at 3 minutes. He talked for quite a while. I think I'm at the wrong hour. So it's 3:31, not 2:21. So hold on. Let me just fast forward it, because obviously he claims that he would have done things differently. The only comment that I will make in terms of him being in every nook and cranny with the common person he claims is I don't hang out in those bars that he hangs out in talking to those Spanish girls. So I don't know what nook and cranny and what Caymanians he's actually talking to. But let's fast forward. I'm actually in the wrong hour. So it's supposed to be at about 3:21. So let's start at 3:20 and see what he has to say about work permits.
The heritage of this came from a time when civil servants, financial secretary, delivered a budget address. Plenty of time for politics, but we're dealing now with the financial welfare of the nation. You need to be talking numbers. You need to be talking financial strategy, fiscal policy. You need to be examining what's happening elsewhere in the world. Not cut and Mr. Speaker, all great fear on this side. This borrow and spend fiscal policy that appears to be what the government has chosen to do is going to end us up in a very hard place. But all of these things are linked, Mr. Speaker. You know why we are doing, or the budget is in good shape as it is there in terms of comparison with the original forecast, despite COVID? Because of the battle that I and the AG and a number of others fought with the financial services industry, who didn't want to bring more of the funds within scope and to get and have to pay fees for them. That's where that $51 million extra came from. But you can't look, Mr. Speaker, for those sort of windfalls every year. And it is now quite apparent that any recovery of the tourism industry is going to be very, very slow. And you're talking down development and construction. You're pressuring businesses that need work permits. Where is the economic driver going to come from that are going to allow us not just to fund the budget, which is just under $2 billion Cayman Islands dollars over the 2-year period. But now you got to pay back interest and principal on nearly $350 million that you're going to borrow. Mr. Speaker, the leader of the opposition put it absolutely right. What this budget represents is a failure on the part of the Premier and the Deputy Premier, who's the Minister of Finance, to get their team to understand that not everything they wanted they could get, that there were going to be some items on Minister J.E. Banks's Christmas list that you just couldn't afford to buy. Mr. Speaker, we went 8 years without borrowing 1 cent to fund capital projects. Not one. And the contingency that we put in place was not to allow us, if we had been back in government or any other government, to go spend willy-nilly on capital projects as though government was way in the black. It was our concern to ensure continuity of government if the worst scenario that we could consider did occur. But in the first 2 years of their term, they are proposing to spend even $20 million more than we had.
Folks, I thought he was going to get to the point at 321. We're now at 324, and I still not hearing nothing about work permits. Let me get the person to try to identify. I'm going to pull this out to try to identify exactly at what point he gets to it. Let me see if I can just fast forward maybe a minute or so, because Lord knows there's only so much BS I can listen to here this morning.
I think you passed it, but Sandra, I'd be happy to find the clips for you and send them to you for another day.
We'll play it later on.
Without running out of
Yes.
time, I just want to say that, you know, I've seen some of the comments as per our discussion this morning, and one of them triggered me, which is the fact of, you know, shouting. So I apologize if my passion was a little bit strong in respect to what I've said. But I must say that I hope people understand what I'm trying to deliver. That if we don't come out in droves and come out and show that we're ready to work, we're not going to win this battle called trying to put K-Mayans first. Because one of the things that you didn't hear from Alden was him saying K-Mayans really don't want to be in tourism. And it begs the question, tomorrow is going to be an example of whether K-Mayans really want to be in tourism or not, because this is the opportunity. Because I'm not going to have any strength to fight. And I won't be able to justify businesses who can't get K-Mayan, who can't get employees, because the industry needs to work. We still make money, even if it's work permit holders who are working there, because once the business is operating, consumption and the taxes and revenues from people coming here will be made by the government, and we need the industry to be operational. So if we don't come out and we don't prepare ourselves, then, you know, we lose this battle that I'm trying to challenge. I know a lot of people are not going to always agree with it. Some people don't like it. Some people don't want us to hold firm. Some people think you should just let it go. That's not what I believe the mandate is by the people. I saw another comment on here in respect to saying that the list of jobs should be available online. That's another example. The industry doesn't even want to give us the list of the jobs, so people know exactly which jobs are available so they can come out. I've been begging for a list from them from when we first started doing the survey. That was one of the agreements. We will be happy to provide the list of people who want to come out to work, what their experiences is, what they do. That's what the whole survey is about. Where they work, whether they worked in stay over, whether they worked in water sports, whether they worked in the hotel and the villas. And we did all of that report. And we were promised to have a list of close to 1,000 jobs available that they will need when we're reopening. And this was a part of the negotiation, right? To say they were pressuring us. And I mean, people may not know the discussions behind closed doors, but industry up to this day, they're still going, you need to open. Now we need the kids below 5 years old. And I agree with that, right? But the safety medical advice doesn't suggest it, but I agree. They keep on saying push more, open, while the government is getting beaten by the opposition saying, oh, you're open and now you got coronavirus everywhere. So we're trying to stand for the people, trying to do that. They're pushing us to open, and then they don't follow through with their commitment. And this is where this battle between industry and my commitment and the PACT administration's commitment to stand for you, the people. Mm-hmm. So I'm sorry if my delivery was too passionate. I probably should not shout, and I'm sorry for that person who says I shouldn't shout. I'm just passionate about my delivery. But if they genuinely don't get enough K-Mayans to come out and show that they want to be a part of the industry, I'm not going to be able to justify not granting work permits for them. And it's not even me, but the whole government, because work permits isn't falling to me. But we're not going to be able to justify to businesses that they can't get the labor that they need. And I just hope that people understand that, because when 6 months from now, hypothetically, nobody really goes out and shows that they want this work, 6 months from now, when the work permits are granted, tourism is doing good, they're going to say, oh, what happened to the K-Mayans in the industry? Wow, what were they? They said they want to put K-Mayans first. They said they want to put K-Mayans at the face of tourism. If you don't show up, I have no say. I have no strength for you. So I just hope people understand that. I really encourage everybody before we close out today that that you talk to your friends, those persons who are new. And my cousin Gabriella, I want to say good morning, and I'll call you after the show because I definitely want to talk to you. Please call as many people you know and tell them the importance of this, because this is the crossroads. This is the crossroads. Trust me when I say that. If we don't get this right before we fully start to peak again to where tourism is, but once they come back, it's going to be the hardest thing to ever fix this problem again. And it all depends on you, the people, particularly those who are saying, oh, we need work, we need work. This is the time. Come and stand. I will stand with you to fight with you, to stand firm, to say you have to put our people first. Otherwise, you're not going to get anything. I'm standing with you. But if you don't show up, I have no leg to stand on. Sandra,
Maria,
I'll leave it.
Thank you. Thank you, Minister.
Sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I was just saying that Maria makes a good point. She says for people who believe, for those people who believe in being conscientious and hardworking, the opportunity to grow and earn more money in the tourism industry is vast. Don't look at where you start at, look at where you can go in the industry. And I want to make the point, someone from behind the scenes is saying this is why this time, unlike other job fairs, they have actually incorporated a pre-registration element. And the whole reason behind that, folks, is so that they can then follow up with you individually as candidates. So between DOT and Works, they have agreed to follow up with anyone who is pre-registered. So that's really the key here, folks. Don't just show up and hand your resume to someone and then only God knows what happens to your resume. When you pre-register via the government portal, government has your contact details and they can say, yes, you showed up, you went to this booth, you went to that booth. Tell us what your experience was. Has anyone contacted you? So that it's no longer in the hands of the companies or the employers to claim that nobody showed up, while y'all looking at the wrong numbers because nobody showed up to our booth. We only got 5 resumes when they actually have some solid numbers to go off of. Someone is also making the suggestion about the nice workers that maybe government needs to put them together and take them out to the job fair as well. But some of this is personal responsibility, folks. Government can't do everything for you. Government can't come to your house, bathe you, shower you, put on your shoes and push you out the door. You have to have that level of self-motivation yourself. So if you are in the NICE program and you're interested in participating in the job fair, speak to your supervisor so you can get the respective time off. Pre-register so the government has your information. I also want to clarify that the job fair at this time, this particular one, is focused on culinary, food and beverage, and attendance, because the companies have said that is where they have the most dire needs at this time. They will have future job opportunities and future job fairs that will be coming online. So, start here. And I dare say that if you're already in a company, it's always easier to move up into different positions once you've got a foot in. So if you're interested in accounts and other things, start somewhere, folks. You don't always start, as Maria said, where you're going to end up, but starting somewhere is really, really important. So there is going to be a level of follow through this time. And someone suggested maybe giving the NICE workers the day off. So there's no excuse, but we're definitely out of time, folks. I got to get to court this morning to really keep abreast of what's happening with this case, because I know a lot of you are most interested in it. Minister, you always draw a big crowd every time you come in the show. There are tons of questions that we haven't gotten to, so please don't be a stranger. I'm sure we'll speak to you before the holidays.
Yeah, I'd be happy to come back on again. Thank you so much, Sandra. And I hope that there's no misunderstanding in respect to my delivery today, but I really just want this to work. I really want us to win in this challenge and this change moving forward. So please, 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 people, young people, persons who've been in the industry before, give yourselves a chance in respect to this. So I'm going to be there tomorrow. I'm bringing some of my colleagues. We're going to be there for 1 o'clock to come to see what the atmosphere is like and how many people show up. So please don't let me down. All right.
Yes.
Take care. God bless you. Love you, Cayman. And thank you, Cayman Mile Road.
All right. Thank you, Minister. We'll see you next time, folks. That's all she wrote. I got to skedaddle out of here because I've got work to do. It's all about work. But listen, when you love what you do, it doesn't really seem like work, does it? So I'm headed to court. I'm going to be sitting there for hours. making my notations about what's happening over there so we can report it accurately to you all and keeping you informed. Please have a pleasant day, folks. Go online, do the registration. I'll put the link up. Make sure that you get all the details. Big shout out to all of our sponsors for the Christmas holidays. Lots of specials going on with Reliable, Aeropost, Miracle Brokers. There's tons of people who have specials on. Check out, the lateral flow tests are being done at, Total Health. So check them out as well. Lots of things going on for the holidays, and we intend to keep you all updated. Have a good day.
Ho, ho, ho! I want to wish you a Merry Christmas. Don't make it a blue Christmas by delaying on ordering your propane for that Cayman beef and turkey. Be like the 3 wise men who rode through the night and prepare for the 12 days of Christmas. Hark! Propane makes all the herald angels sing. Feliz Navidad! Contact Home Gas early for your Christmas propane order at 949-7474.
Christmas time is about family, caroling, church services, and dirty dishes, cleaning floors, and power washing your house. Don't let the ghost of Christmas chores make you a Scrooge. Call Reliable Industries today for all of your house cleaning needs. Our professional services are perfect for Christmas time to let you forget the hassle of housework and focus on the important things, spending quality time with your family. Reliable Industries offers an array of gold standard residential home services, including professional house cleaning, window washing, pressure washing, HEPA filter cleaning, professional kitchen hood cleaning services, and more. A happy home is a healthy home, and there's no time like the holiday season to make your home the happiest. Don't forget that Reliable offers gift certificates and gift baskets for your loved ones. Call Reliable Industries today at 949-9303 to speak to a customer service rep to book your services. Reliable, serving the community for over 30 years with quality and pride.
Thank you for tuning in to another edition of The Cold Hard Truth. Make sure to check Facebook for showtimes and more information and the latest news at CaymanMarlRoad.com. Subscribe to our IG and Facebook pages to get the latest happenings.